With Godzilla King of the Monsters as this year's #1 epic giant villain movie, it's easy to label the title character as the strongest and most unbeatable creature you could ever think of, completely forgetting many other iconic characters. This also happens because in 2019, Zilla will be joined on screen by some equally overpowering figures. If we used to scream at the idea of Frankenstein, just take a moment to think of gigantic 3-headed bat-winged dragon Ghidorah, along with huge creepy-looking Mothra and Rodan. But because of their impressive features, these creatures have blacked out from our memory many other resilient enemies, dating back to the Lord of the Rings saga to more recent works. Also, we often tend to classify many monsters' powers based just on their physical abilities. Who's the tallest? Who can rip out most trees? Who has the biggest fangs?
Oh, you didn't know about the 30-foot wolf?
Being humans, read here grown babies, we love to be left in awe by the size of things, but we often underestimate powers that go beyond the natural and into the supernatural. So today, let's look back at some of the most unbeatable monsters we've encountered over the course of the years of cinema history, some of which have been avoided being defeated time after time thanks to their physical abilities, others because of their mysterious nature. The first villain monster included on today's list is one that will also appear in another highly anticipated 2019 film, It Chapter 2. Although It usually prefers to take on the classic form of Pennywise the dancing clown, the most horrifying aspect of it is that it is a shape-shifting monster, meaning that it can take on the form of anything, in particular of the victim's biggest fear. Back in 1990, audiences were left disturbed by the TV adaptation of Stephen King's nightmarish novel, and in 2017 with its remake, we all really understood just how strong this character is, being able to physically fit in any environment, having an exceptional physical strength, and feeding directly off of his victim's emotions. This monster is so frightening and so dangerous because nobody really knows how to actually tackle it. There is no information about what it actually looks like, what its weak spots are, if there even are any, all because of its odd and particularly resilient nature, two features we will see often on today's list. Another particularly tough monster is one that sounds like an obvious answer, King Kong. But did you ever actually stop to think about his specs? His size varies from film to film, but on a range from 20 to over 100 feet. He weighs over 10 tons and is known to single-handedly pick up, flip, and of course kill huge dinosaurs. And did you know he also knows how to make weapons out of rocks, trees, and use them against his enemies? P.S. As we were speaking of Godzilla, 2020 will be the year in which King Kong and Zilla actually face one another. What will that outcome be? Now let's set the biceps and the measuring scales aside for a moment and take a look at monsters who are hard to beat because of more supernatural reasons, such as those featured in Netflix's massive hit from last Christmas, Bird Box. The Bird Box monsters are basically never really shown, and none of the characters are able to see them, if not with the terrible consequence of committing suicide right after that. From the small amount of information we are able to gather, these monsters infiltrate the mind, our subconscious, try to persuade the victim to look at them, and then proceed to show them something absolutely terrible and beyond belief, frightening and anguishing, to which they react by taking their own lives. Now, the human mind, our mind even as viewers, can accept physical feats. It can master the idea of something concretely strong, but we can't come up with the idea of something we don't know. And as animals, our primal instinct is to avoid death. So when we see characters suffering because of the unknown, and then quickly doing something which goes beyond their own nature, that is what makes these monsters absolutely beyond defeat. Because anything the characters try to devise to go around their traps just seems to fail. Sometimes muscles aren't everything. There are some film characters which combine both the elements of mystery and of physical strength, making them an interesting entry on today's list. The creatures in the horror hit A Quiet Place. As the title suggests, the film takes place in a very quiet place. As a matter of fact, none of the characters can utter a word or make the slightest sound without calling upon themselves the immediate attack of vicious alien-looking creatures. They are incredibly strong, unbelievably fast, and they can overpower a human within seconds, just by hearing somebody drop an object. The next subject up on our list is one for which we will have to step about 20 years into the past. The basilisk, a legendary creature from ancient Greek mythology which became known to the wider audience after its appearance in the Harry Potter saga, which with dragons, giant spiders, three-headed dogs and trolls is not a newbie to the monster scene. The Harry Potter basilisk is 50 feet long, can crush people and objects, lives in sewers and has venomous fangs. Oh, but it doesn't really need all of that when it can kill you just because you look at it thanks to its deadly gaze. With many other notable mentions such as the Lord of the Rings Balrog and the Maze Runner monsters, we want to know what your favourite movie monster is. Leave in a comment down below.